The first thing you notice about Kessler's Landing after midnight is the sound of water you can't see. The harbor is there, 50 yards from the terminal gate. But in November, the fog takes it. Takes the boats, takes the dock lights, takes the far shore entirely. What's left is sound. The low groan of hulls against their moorings, the occasional hollow knock of wood on wood, the distant tone of the channel buoy. One low note repeated every 40 seconds like something breathing in its sleep. Ray Cortell had learned to find this calming. It had taken about 3 years. He walked his perimeter at 2 a.m. the way he always did. Northwest corner of the loading bay, down the east fence line, past the fuel shed, back through the equipment garage, and out to the dock edge where he stood for 5 minutes and smoked. His boots were waterproof, which mattered because it rained here approximately 200 days a year. And tonight, it was doing that thing where it wasn't quite raining. But the air was so saturated that standing in it felt the same as standing in light rain. His jacket was soaked at the shoulders. He didn't mind. The dog was at the fence, not pacing, not agitated, just standing at the northwest corner of the chain link, nose pushed lightly through a gap in the mesh, watching the parking lot. "You're early," Ray said. Not really to the dog, but not really not to the dog either. The Cane Corso turned its head once, then turned back to the lot. Ray had filed a report about the dog in his first month. Massive black animal. No tags, possible stray, potential liability. The terminal manager, a thin man named Foss, who drove 40 minutes each way from Tillamook, had said, "Is it bothering anyone?" Ray had said no. Foss had said, "And I don't have a form for that," and that had been the end of it. The dog had been here longer than Ray. The dock workers treated it with cautious respect, the way you treat a piece of heavy equipment that has never malfunctioned but you still prefer not to stand directly beside. Ray finished his cigarette and went back inside. He first saw the dog react in January. It was a Tuesday mid-morning. Ray was working a double, covering for a sick colleague, and Dale Pruett had pulled his F-250 around to the loading ramp to deliver some equipment fittings to one of the charter boats moored in Slip 9. Ray had seen Pruett a dozen times, knew him vaguely the way everyone in Kessler's Landing knew everyone, not closely, but enough to nod, enough to say, "How you doing?" and have both parties understand the answer was irrelevant. Pruett climbed out of the truck and the dog lost its mind. That was the only way to describe it. Monk, who had been lying on the concrete by the fuel shed in his usual arrangement of controlled mass, came off the ground as if something had yanked him upright. The sound that came out of him was not a bark. It was lower than a bark, longer, like something structural failing inside a building. Every muscle in the animal's body went rigid. His lips curled back to show teeth that Ray had never seen before and didn't want to think about. Pruett froze. The chain link fence between them was the only thing that prevented something Ray did not want to imagine. The dog threw itself at the fence twice, not frantically, not blindly, but with terrifying precision. Each impact calculated, testing the weakest point of the chain. The sound of 130 pounds of muscle hitting galvanized steel echoed across the empty lot. Then Pruett got back in his truck and drove away. The dog stood at the fence for 11 minutes afterward. Ray timed it because he didn't know what else to do. 11 minutes of absolute stillness, watching the road where the F-250 had disappeared. Then the dog walked back to the fuel shed, turned twice and lay down. Ray wrote it in his log. Dog incident, 10:47 a.m., no injury. Animal calm after subject departed. He didn't know what else to call it. It happened 3 more times over the next 8 months. Once in March, when Pruett walked over from the supply store to speak to a captain at the slip. Once in June, when Pruett attended a harbor association meeting and parked in the public lot. Once in September, when he was simply walking along the waterfront, the way people sometimes do in early evening. Hands in pockets looking at nothing. Each time, the same transformation, the low structural sound, the body going rigid, the fence. Each time, Pruett left. The dog returned to stillness. Ray started noticing other things. The way Pruett always found a reason to leave, before the dog could be moved or contained. The way he never looked directly at the animal, always a quarter turn away, watching from his peripheral. The way you watch something you've already made up your mind about. The way his departure was always controlled, unhurried, as if he'd rehearsed it. The town had developed its own understanding of the situation, which was the dog was dangerous. The dog needed to be removed, and it was only a matter of time before something happened. The harbor master had filed 2 requests with County Animal Services. Both had come back with the same response. No confirmed attacks on record. Monitor situation. People in Kessler's Landing talked about the black dog the way they talked about weather, with resignation, with mild dread, as something beyond anyone's control. Nobody talked about why, specifically. The dog went still for every other human being in the county. Nobody except Marin Toll. Marin ran the combination diner and bait shop at the north end of the harbor, the kind of place that served coffee in styrofoam, cups and fried eggs at any hour, and kept a handwritten tide chart taped to the wall because the fishermen asked for it more often than the laminated one. She was 63 years old, had lived in Kessler's Landing her entire life, and possessed the specific social omniscience of someone who has fed the same 500 people for 40 years. Ray had been eating breakfast there on Tuesday mornings for 2 years. They had a comfortable arrangement. She brought the coffee without being asked. He didn't ask personal questions, and they talked about the weather and the ferry schedule and occasionally the more interesting varieties of human damage that a small harbor town accumulated. He brought up the dog in October. Pruett's name came up at the harbor meeting, he said. There's talk about getting county to take the dog. Marin refilled his cup, said nothing. You know he's the only person it does that for, Ray said. I've logged it every single time. Marin set the coffee pot down. She looked at the window for a moment, the parking lot, the gray sky, the usual arrangement of nothing. Carol had that dog, she said. Ray waited. Before she died, it was her dog. She got it as a pup. Marin wiped the counter with a cloth that didn't need wiping. Dale didn't like it. Said it was too big, too aggressive, too much to manage. They argued about it. Not publicly, but you hear things. She kept it at the warehouse mostly, on the dock. And when she died, dog disappeared for about a week. Then it turned up here. Marin shrugged as if the logic was self-evident. I figured it knew where she'd spent most of her time. Ray turned his coffee cup. You think the dog knows something? I think, Marin said carefully, that Dale Pruett did not go for a walk on that breakwater alone at 11 p.m. in February and fall in by accident. She said it the same way she'd say the weather was changing. Observational, stated once, not for debate. I think a lot of people in this town know they don't fully believe it. And I think that dog was on the dock that night because she was on the dock. That night, she picked up the coffee pot and walked to the other end of the counter. That was all she said about it. Ray went back through what he could find. The accident report was public record. A single page. County Coroner, February 14th, 6 years ago. Carol Ann Pruett, 54, found in Harbor Basin at 6:47 a.m. by dock worker James Ellery. Ruled accidental drowning. No evidence of third-party involvement. A second page noted that the deceased had a blood alcohol content of .09. Not extreme, but enough. No witnesses interviewed on record. No security footage. The terminal cameras had been down for maintenance that week, a fact confirmed by a work order dated 2 days prior. Dale Pruett had reported his wife missing at 7 a.m., approximately 15 minutes after the body was found. He had been home that evening, he said. She had gone for a walk and not returned. The dog had been on the dock. Ray sat with that. He wasn't a detective. He wasn't anything. He was a night shift security guard with a tremor in his hand, and a 7-year-old reason for moving to a place where no one asked questions. But he was also someone who had watched the dog for 8 months, and he understood in some wordless way the difference between aggression and recognition. What the dog felt when Dale Pruett came near was not fear, and it was not instinct. It was specific. It was aimed. It was the behavior of an animal that remembered something very clearly and was doing the only thing left to it. The first thing you notice about Kessler's Landing, After midnight is the sound of water you can't see. The harbor is there, 50 yards from the terminal gate. But in November, the fog takes it. Takes the boats, takes the dock lights, takes the far shore entirely. What's left is sound. The low groan of hulls against their moorings, the occasional hollow knock of wood on wood, the distant tone of the channel buoy. One low note repeated every 40 seconds like something breathing in its sleep. Ray Cortell had learned to find this calming. It had taken about 3 years. He walked his perimeter at 2 a.m. the way he always did. Northwest corner of the loading bay, down the east fence line, past the fuel shed, back through the equipment garage, and out to the dock edge where he stood for 5 minutes and smoked. His boots were waterproof, which mattered because it rained here approximately 200 days a year. And tonight, it was doing that thing where it wasn't quite raining. But the air was so saturated that standing in it felt the same as standing in light rain. His jacket was soaked at the shoulders. He didn't mind. The dog was at the fence, not pacing, not agitated, just standing at the northwest corner of the chain link, nose pushed lightly through a gap in the mesh, watching the parking lot. "You're early," Ray said. Not really to the dog, but not really not to the dog either. The Cane Corso turned its head once, then turned back to the lot. Ray had filed a report about the dog in his first month. Massive black animal. No tags, possible stray, potential liability. The terminal manager, a thin man named Foss, who drove 40 minutes each way from Tillamook, had said, "Is it bothering anyone?" Ray had said no. Foss had said, "And I don't have a form for that," and that had been the end of it. The dog had been here longer than Ray. The dock workers treated it with cautious respect, the way you treat a piece of heavy equipment that has never malfunctioned but you still prefer not to stand directly beside. Ray finished his cigarette and went back inside. Nothing happened after that, not in any definitive legal sense. Ray wrote a letter, not to the police, because he had nothing the police would use, and he understood this clearly, but to Dale Pruett's sister, whose name he found in the accident report. He wrote 3 pages, single-spaced, factual, with dates and times from his log. He described the dog's behavior with the same precision he'd used in his security reports. Duration of reactions, distances, body posture. The one moment of direct eye contact in November. He described what Marin had said. He described the camera maintenance work. Order dated 2 days before Carol's death. He mailed it in December. He received a phone call in February. He didn't know what came of it. He moved away from Kessler's Landing in March. Not because anything had resolved, but because he'd been offered a position in Astoria, slightly better pay, and because he'd done the thing he'd been quietly compelled to do, and staying felt like waiting for a verdict he wasn't entitled to. On his last night, he walked the perimeter one final time. The dog was at the fuel shed. It was past midnight. The fog at its worst, the harbor entirely invisible. The buoy marking the channel with its solitary low note. Ray stood near the shed for a while. He didn't have anything to give the dog. He'd never fed it. Terminal rules, and also it had never asked. The dog looked at him with its dark, settled eyes, looked away, looked back. Ray nodded, which he recognized as a slightly absurd thing to do to a dog. But the available gestures were limited, and this was the one he had. He finished his cigarette. He walked to his car. He drove north on 101, the highway disappearing into fog immediately. The ocean somewhere to his left in the darkness, audible but unseen. Behind him, Kessler's Landing rearranged itself back into the ordinary. The lights over the loading bay buzzed in the cold. The foghorn counted its intervals. The dog lay down against the concrete base of the fuel shed, nose pointed toward the water, and did not move until morning.